Hey, everybody. I'm Pastor Rob Singleton. You've reached Ask Piro. The question is, does the Bible address critical race theory? You might be surprised, although the Bible doesn't contain the phrase critical race theory or even the acronym CRT, it does have a lot to say on the subject that makes it irrefutable, I think, how we should approach this latest approach to racial tension. Before addressing what is critical race theory, first, its predecessor, simply critical theory. Critical theory views reality through the lens of power. Each individual is seen either as oppressed or as an oppressor, depending on their race, class, gender, sexuality, a number of other categories as well. Oppressed groups are subjugated not by physical force or even overt discrimination, but through the exercise of hegemonic power. Look it up. The ability of dominant groups to impose their norms, values, and expectations on society as a whole, relegating other groups to subordinate positions.
Wait a minute, is this for real?
Now, it's also important to note that not everything about critical theory is false. I like the way it's clarified in an article on the subject over at the Gospel Coalition, which we've been using a lot on this discussion of critical race theory. But before we continue, would you do me a favor? If you're watching this on my YouTube channel, please hit that subscribe button and the notification below. That helps get the word out. Or if you're listening via podcast, if you would be willing to give us a good review, that's the fastest way with podcasts to get the word out about what we're doing, which is combining grace and truth to help people find out about Jesus. Okay. Let me reiterate that not everything that critical theory affirms is false.
So all of it was a lie?
Well, yeah. No, wait. Oh, yeah, it all was a lie.
Like almost any discipline, there are areas in which Christians should agree with critical theory. For example, critical race theorists affirm that race, as it has been defined historically and legally, is a social construct and not a concept legitimately rooted in human nature or even human biology. Second, the notion of hegemonic power is also somewhat legitimate. Not completely, but somewhat. Christians have long recognized how various institutions can intentionally or unintentionally or even subconsciously perpetuate ideas like secularism, naturalism, and relativism that create resistance to the gospel.
Resistance is futile.
Similarly, Christian parents have to fight against false standards of beauty or false standards of sexuality promulgated by the entertainment and advertising industries. These examples show hegemonic power in action as the culture imbibes norms and values promoted by dominant institutions. Third, critical theory functions as a worldview for a lot of people. It answers our most basic question: who are we? What is our fundamental problem? What is the solution to that problem? What is our primary moral duty? How should we live? So there's some good to be gleaned here. However, and alarmingly, because critical theory understands all relationships in terms of power dynamics,
Feel the power.
it can't be confined to a single issue such as class or race or even gender. Consistency will push us to apply this framework to other areas. Critical theorists classify racism, sexism, capitalism, heteronormativity, cisgender privilege, and Christian privilege as all forms of oppression. In all these cases, a dominant group has imposed its values, according to them, on a subordinate group. In all these areas, or all these cases, the solution then is to dismantle the norms that keep the minoritized group in bondage and the superior group in oppressing or in power.
I need your power!
Christians who embrace the paradigm of critical theory as a solution to racism or sexism often question a biblical understanding of gender roles.
Male or female,
Or gender identity.
male or female,
And a lot more: sexual orientation, marriage,
male or female.
parental authority, and even the uniqueness of the Christian faith itself. It is said that in critical theory, the greatest sin is oppression, and the greatest value is the pursuit of liberation.
So I got that going for me, which is nice.
Which kind of sounds good, right? Yeah, but my issue is that with this stated goal, Proponents of critical theory and CRT use that same anathema oppression on groups they perceive as not getting it, standing in the way, politically incorrect, or even not doing enough to help the cause.
So the cycle will continue until the wrench is whittled down to its least valuable parts.
Or even just being silent. Silence is violence. They criticize, marginalize, and even demonize anyone not in lockstep with CT and CRT, but seldom seem to get around to addressing the inaccuracies and historical flat-out revisions used in building their own case for either one. Proverbs 6:16-17 says, "There are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are an abomination to him." Listen, haughty eyes or pride, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that make haste to run to do evil, a false witness who breathes out lies,
It's not a lie if you believe it.
and one who sows discord among the brothers. Several of these happen with CRT and CT. Listen, real justice requires truth, and much of CRT is based on inaccurate history or false narratives like Proverbs was talking about, and in some cases outright lies. And as such, it should be DOA.
Narrative? Dead.
Dead on arrival. Now, lest you think I'm picking on CRT, anything that purports to be progressive and positive for the Christian faith that starts by dismantling much of the Christian faith is not of God. Listen, I get it. I say this at the risk of being painfully obvious, but that's just it. People right and left today are bypassing the painfully obvious in favor of the obviously painful ramifications of being dead wrong.
Wait, can you say that again? Just slowly?
The pain they experience is what I call the John Cougar Mellencamp variety. I guess it just hurts so good, they can't look past it. My biggest problems with critical race theory are that first, it's 1 part race theory and 99 parts critical. Critical of everything, whether godly or not, positive or not, orthodox or not, biblical or not, true or not, if it gets in the way of the theory. For the most part, it is all for throwing out the baby with the bathwater, the tub with the bathwater, the bathroom with the bathwater, and the kitchen sink with the bathwater. Second, it has to disregard several orthodox and foundational aspects of biblical Christianity in order to elevate and push forth and, just firmly establish its own approach. You can't do that. Third, it seeks to rewrite history and replace it with a mostly fantasy history that is provably false.
That didn't happen.
On the other hand, there are those who dismiss CRT and 100% of what it stands for out of hand. This is also a mistake, actually, the same one that we've been talking about CRT adherents doing. Dismantling or completely dismissing the validity of a theory based solely on its origin or source falls prey to what philosophers call the genetic fallacy. I like the way they explain this on gotquestions.org. See, it could be as dangerous as a pacifist ignoring a no trespassing sign on an army training ground, or as foolish as a Hindu rejecting a cancer diagnosis because the Muslim oncologist was just that, not a Hindu, he was a Muslim. Whatever the associations or origins the movement may have, CRT nevertheless deserves a fair hearing in its own right, but it's one that I'm confident CRT cannot hold up against. How can we help people wake up? Especially when, as they sleepwalk along with the herd, they seem most proud of a status they label as woke. That's important. Far too important to tack onto the end of an already too long discussion. So, for the rest, see part 2. Until then, you've been watching Ask Piro or listening to Ask Piro. Peace.